Today on Trucks, Mel and Stacey have already slammed Project Sport Sierra. This week, they'll change the tone and the tunes on their GMC with an exhaust system and stereo upgrade. After that, they'll hit the trail with a brand new Ford Ranger 4x4 before taking you back to the shop to fit a CJ7 with an off-road shower. That's all today on Trucks.
Hello everybody, thanks for being with us today. You know, the first time we rolled our 99 GMC Sierra into the truck shop, it was just a two-wheel drive work truck. But thanks to some of the hottest aftermarket add-ons, a 3/4 drop as well as brand new wheels and rubber, we've turned our ride into a true sport truck.
But now that we have the look and the stats that we're after, we're still lacking in one area, and that's sound. So we're going to finish off Project Sport Sierra by upgrading the stereo system and the exhaust. But before we deal with the tunes, we're going to talk about the tone this thing's going to have.
Now there's 4 areas of restriction when it comes to exhaust: the manifold, catalytic converter, the diameter of your pipes, and the muffler. But to upgrade all these things at once usually costs more than most of us can afford.
Yeah, not to mention the government has all kinds of regulations on what you can legally do to an exhaust system. So you need to be careful, or you could end up with a truck you can't even drive. Now, through all this confusion, the catback system was born. Like the name implies, it runs from the catalytic converters on back, and it deals with 2 of the areas of restriction like Mel was talking about: the muffler and the diameter of the pipe.
We got our system from Gibson Performance Exhaust. The thing that's really cool about this kit is you really can bolt it on in your own driveway in just a couple hours. It comes complete with the head pipe, Gibson's special dual output muffler, as well as the tailpipes and tips to finish off that dual exhaust look.
The first thing we need to do is pop out the stock system. Now, I've unbolted it up there at the catalytic converter, and I've cut it back here because that makes it a lot easier to get this tailpipe over the axle. Now, it may seem obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. Make sure that these pipes are cold before you try this, because if you grab hold of a hot exhaust system, you'll do moves that Jackie Chan's not even thought of.
Now we're ready to bolt the new head pipe into the flange. Now in most cases, you have to run a gasket here. You'll end up with major leakage. But with this system, it slides right inside for an airtight seal.
Then connect your muffler, and it slides right into the factory rubber mounts. Now slide back your clamp. You'll want to leave this a little loose so you have some adjustment later on.
The system also needs to be supported in the rear, so we need to bolt on these metal brackets to the outside of the frame using the factory holes. These over-the-axle tailpipes have already been bent to give us plenty of clearance even with our 4-inch slam in the rear. Just slide them into the muffler and make sure you have at least an inch clearance from any obstructions.
Now that Mel has the over-the-axle pipes in place, I'm going to put on the tailpipes. As before, we're going to use a clamp and go over the bracket that hangs from the frame. You can see it's got a rotating head to make installation a lot easier. Now on the tailpipe, you'll need to cut it to the length you want it before you put your tips on. Now I personally like to take it up nice and close to the body for a real clean look. Now when you cut your pipe, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can use a hacksaw or an air-powered cutoff tool. But by far the easiest way to do it is to invest in one of these pipe cutting tools at your local auto parts store for about 30 bucks. Believe me, once you have one, you'll never know how you got by without it.
At this point, the system is basically in place, so it's a good idea to double check everything for clearance. Now don't be surprised if you have to use some wire ties to hold down brake lines or vent hoses, but once everything checks out, go ahead and tighten down all your clamps.
With the tailpipe in place, you can go ahead and slide on your tip. And make sure you've left at least 3 inches of extra length so you've got some adjustment. Now like I said before, we're going to take ours right up close to the roll pan, but leave just enough room for the exhaust system to move. Of course, where you mount yours is entirely up to you.
But wherever you decide to mount them, it's not hard to see that this system really fits like it's supposed to. And the sound? Well, let's just say that pretty much speaks for itself. Don't go away. We got more trucks for you right after this.
Later in the show, we'll hit the trail with a 99 Ranger to find out if it's really built Ford tough. But before we do, Project Sport Sierra needs some new tunes. That stereo upgrade is up next.
Welcome back to the truck shop. Now that Project Sport Sierra has the tone we want with that Gibson Performance exhaust system we hung on it to open the show, we need to bump up the sound in the cab with that stereo upgrade.
Now granted, the stock stereo on a 99 Sierra is adequate, but if you're serious about your tunes, you gotta have one that at least goes to 11. So we went to MTX Audio for this acoustic 4-channel high-power receiver with AM, FM, and CD player. Now it's got all the goodies like remote control, automatic seek and scan, music search, and manual tuning. It's also got this neat removable face so it doesn't end up in a pawn shop somewhere.
We're also going to use MTX's Coaxial speaker system for the doors and the rear. The reason these are so much better is they feature a polypropylene cone that helps your bass kick a whole lot better, as well as these balanced tweeters for smoother high-frequency response. And this big dog here, we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Now we're going to mount our receiver right here in the dash in place of the stock unit. So the first thing we need to do is get this dash cover off. Now if you're working on an older truck or don't want to mount your stereo in the dash, that's not a problem because there's an installation kit available so you can put it wherever you want. Now if you do that, make sure you keep it away from the heater because that can damage the stereo. Also, before you do any electrical work, make sure you disconnect your battery.
While Stacey's busy tearing our dash apart, I'm going to replace the speakers in the door. Now if you don't know how to get your door panel off, it's a really good idea to go down to a local parts store and buy yourself a service manual before you end up tearing something off and adding to the cost of your project. A really slick thing about this system is you don't have to run new wires. Just swap out the ends and the speakers mount right up to the factory holes. Bottom line, doesn't get any easier than this. And the rears are as easy to install as the front.
If you've ever done any stereo work, you probably know that the faces of the factory radios are usually a lot bigger than the aftermarket ones. This leaves a big old hole in your dash. Now this $20 install kit allows you to slide your upgrade right into the factory spot and fills up that hole for a nice clean look. For the hookups on this setup, you'll need to get this GM adapter, which is about 14 bucks, and it splices right into the wires of the new stereo, color to color. Then just plug it into the factory harness. Now you'll also need this antenna adapter for this application.
Of course, no stereo system would be complete without a thumping bass, and we're going to get that from the Thunderforum subwoofer enclosure. One of the cool things about this system is that it's custom made for your vehicle and tucks right up under the back seat. It's also got a built-in amplifier as well as a 10-inch speaker so you can really feel that bass kicking.
While Mel was filling you in on the Thunderforum, I've gone ahead and hooked up the wiring harness. And we've got a hot wire that runs through an inline fuse and then directly to the battery. Then we have a power lead that kicks the amp on when you turn the stereo on, and then of course your ground.
Installation of this thing couldn't be any easier. Just slide it in there, woofer pointing down, and to hold it in place, you have two small brackets that screw into the floor. Plug into your harness, make your connections, and you're ready to rock.
And rock you will. Now this system obviously has everything that you need, but if you're one of those that thinks that more is better, you've got a lot of options for upgrades in the future. Now the best thing about this system is it goes clear to 40. Hey man!
Like I was trying to say, 40 is probably more than you'll ever need, but hey, it's nice to know you got it. Don't go away, we got more trucks right after the break. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. You know, the Ford Ranger has been the #1 selling compact truck for more than a decade. And hey, why wouldn't it be? It's a great platform to work with whether you're into sport trucks or off-road machines.
Mickey Thompson is famous for wheels and tires, so when they were looking for a project to feature their new street radials on, they asked a bunch of 16 and 17-year-old sport truckers to help them design the project and make it cool.
And we have to admit, this thing came out really nice. The first thing that catches your eye is the yellow pearl paint with a checkered flag graphic that fades to white around the rear end. And let's face it, no sport truck is complete without a catback exhaust, smooth roll pan, tail light treatment, and you gotta have a tonneau cover.
They also popped the top with a sunroof and tinted the glass. The front end received a blacked out billet grille, monochromatic paint, and headlight covers. The suspension was treated to a moderate drop, and of course it all sits on Mickey Thompson's new street radials and Challenger wheels. Hey, who says kids don't know what they're talking about?
But listen up. If you're not into dragging the ground, the 99 XLT 4x4 is the truck for you. It hasn't changed from '98, but there's no need to fix what isn't broke. You can get this Ranger with a standard 4-cylinder or step up to a more substantial V6 that pumps out 160 horse at 4,200 RPM.
With the addition of the optional 4-door Super Cab late last year, the Ranger definitely qualifies as one of the most versatile trucks on the market. Pull down the seats in the rear and you can fit 4 in the cab. The XLT also comes fully loaded with dual airbags, a CD player, and of course a cruise control.
But when you're banging around off-road, luxury won't be your focus, because this Blue Oval hasn't forgotten what it was built for, and that's durability.
For the off-road gear, our truck has the new Pulse vacuum hub locks. Now, they're not as strong as the old manual locking hubs, but this setup allows almost silent 4x4 engagement on the fly with the flick of a switch on the dash. And that's a nice option when the trail tries to bite you.
And thanks to a stiffened frame, rack and pinion steering, as well as a totally redesigned front suspension that was first introduced last year, the 99 XLT delivers a stable and predictable ride on the road as well. And speaking of stable, the sticker on this Ford is virtually unchanged from last year, holding steady at around 25 grand, fully loaded.
If you've added a lot of high-load accessories to your truck, like a winch or a kick-in stereo, then dual batteries are a great way to go. Now, if you hook up dual batteries, you need to go in parallel. This doubles their capacity. Now, to do this, take a cable and run from the positive of battery 1 to the positive of battery 2. Then take another cable, run from the negative of battery 1 to the negative of battery 2. Then take your hot wire, run off the positive of battery 1, and ground off the negative of battery 2. Now keep in mind, running in parallel won't give you 24 volts, but it will double your amps capacity, which allows you to play with all your toys without running out of juice. Thanks for staying with us. Now, if you've ever spent any time off-road, you know that after a couple days of running the trails or camping out, people tend to get a little ripe. Heck, I've actually seen a pair of pants get up and walk out of a tent by themselves.
Yeah, good thing you had a spare with you that day.
Hey, you gotta be prepared.
Well, that's definitely true, and you couldn't be any more prepared than if you had a shower that ran right off your vehicle. I mean, think of the convenience. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking that's pretty crazy, but R&M Specialties has come up with this kit that allows you unlimited hot water from any water source like a creek or even a cooler.
Now, the key to this kit is this heat exchanger. It installs in line of one of your heater hoses, and that's where you get your hot water. Now, you can literally mount this thing anywhere, on one of these strut rods, up against the firewall, wherever you'd like. Now, we're going to mount ours here on this inner fender using this supplied T-bracket. That way it'll be out of the way, but we can still get to it really easy.
Everybody knows there's nothing worse than trying to take a shower with low water pressure. So to keep the water flowing, R&M provides this electric pump that will mount right here on the inner fender close to the battery. All you need to do is set it in place, mark the holes in the bracket, drill them, and bolt it on.
Getting back to the heat exchanger, once it's in place, you can splice into your heater hoses. Now you'll need to drain the radiator just a little bit to keep from making a big mess, and obviously the system will need to be cool before you do this. Now if you do happen to spill some antifreeze, make sure that you clean it up because it's poisonous to animals, and I promise you, Fido will find it. Now I'm going to take this hose, go to the input of the heat exchanger, and then run it across the firewall over to Mel.
Got it, man. Then it simply hooks up to the output on the pump. Now I've already connected the ground, and the power wire can run through the firewall to one side of this push-pull switch that turns the pump on. Now keep in mind, for this application, it's a really good idea to go to a power source that's only on when the key is on. That way you don't accidentally leave the pump on and burn it out.
Now, one of the cool options for this kit are these quick disconnects. Now this allows you to mount your inputs and outputs for your shower anywhere on the vehicle permanently. Now since this Jeep is a serious off-roader, we're going to go ahead and put them inside the inner fender here to keep from breaking them off on a rock or something. Now you run your water output in here, then it goes to the pump. This comes from the heat exchanger, then out to your shower head. Make sure you wire tie your hoses up out of the way and you're almost ready to go.
Almost, but not quite. Before we run any water through this system, we need to double check all our hose connections and fill our radiator back up.
Now the way this thing works is hot water runs from your motor through the heat exchanger. Then the fresh water from your other source runs through different chambers of the unit where it's heated. Now as you might have guessed, you control the temperature of your shower with your heater controls inside the cab.
Hey Stace, let's take this thing outside and show them how it really works.
Sounds good to me.
To make it work, drop the supplied hose in the water source, plug in your quick connect, pull the switch to activate your pump, and you're ready to go. You're probably thinking you need more water than you really do. R&M says 5 gallons is plenty for 2 people to take a comfortable shower, unless of course you're out on the trail with my partner Stace, who insists on driving through every mud hole he can find.
Hey, if you ain't getting dirty, you ain't really trying. Now don't think that taking a shower is the only use for this thing. It's great for washing down a vehicle at the end of the trail, or if you're into showing horses or dogs or whatever, it's great for cleaning them up too.
Bottom line, your options are only limited by your water supply. Unfortunately, we have hit the limit on this segment of the show, so we have to pay some bills. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
And now truck gear, parts, tools, and equipment for pickups and sport utilities.
Did you know the glare from vehicles behind you can increase your stopping distance by as much as 100 feet at 60 miles an hour? It's true. You see, glare causes an afterimage to form on the eye's retina, which impedes your ability to see and react to objects in your path. You can eliminate that problem, however, with the night vision safety mirror from Gentex. It detects glare and automatically dims the mirror to make driving at night a whole lot safer. It has compass and external temperature readings and can be purchased through the Mito Corporation for about $250.
Now we've all heard of those miracle products that you add to your oil and they give you better gas mileage and reduce heat and friction. Well, the makers of X1R say that their product actually penetrates the metal, increasing its density, and that does away with wear and tear. Now they also make a synthetic gear oil that has a unique design that allows it to cling to the gears, so you don't have to use those big, thick, sticky gear oils that do cause heat and friction. Treat your motor for about 15 bucks, lube your gears for about 35.
How about we just go ahead and cut to the chase? Spyderco developed the first folding blade with a serrated edge in the early 80s and still produces more than 90% of all their blades in a serrated configuration because they cut better and stay sharp as much as 6 times longer than a plain edge. The trademark round hole can be used for smooth one-hand opening and closing, and the clothing clip is also an industry first. That's going to do it for Truck Gear. Here's a preview of next week's show.
Mel and Stacey will hang the final pieces of hardware on the chassis of Project Wicked Willie's. Then they'll turn their attention to the interior of their classic 55 wagon. After that, they'll take a look at the first factory-built 4x4 to take on American soil, the Dodge Power Wagon. Then it's a performance clutch and tranny for Project 383 Stroker. That's all next week on Trucks.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks for being with us. We look forward to trucking with you again next week. What are you doing?
This is great. Washing my pants, man. They were a mess.
You're supposed to take your clothes off to wash them, man.
Oh, well, okay.
Whoa, Willie, whoa, man. We're saying
That's
goodbye
right, we're
here,
still
man.
rolling.
Don't be wasting time.
Hey, Mel, you got any soap?
Trucks is an RTM production.